Hey friends, Elizabeth here from Plant-Based Bride, back with another video. And this video I'm actually really excited about because I had the idea for this spread months ago and I finally got around to doing it. And I just think this could be a really helpful video for anyone who's maybe new to bullet journaling and is a bit overwhelmed. So this spread is the ABCs of BuJo, and I'm going to go through the entire alphabet and define the most common terms in bullet journaling that someone who's new to BuJo might not necessarily know, just to kind of get a handle of all of these words and terms that we so freely throw around in this community that may be a little bit foreign to some people. So getting started with A, the first term I want to define is A5 dot grid. So this is the most common type of notebook used in bullet journaling. A5 indicates the size of the notebook. So an A5 notebook is 5.8 inches by 8.3 inches. And then dot grid references a type of paper. So instead of blank paper, it's a dot grid paper. And your most standard dot grid would be about 5 millimeters between each dot. Moving on to B, and we have a couple terms in B. So starting with bullet journal, of course, which is the whole name of this system, and BuJo, which is the short form of bullet journal. Bullets, as defined on the bullet journal website, are the syntax of the bullet journal system, and they're short form sentences paired with symbols that visually categorize your entries into tasks, events, or notes. So the bullets are essentially your entries into your bullet journal. Brain dump. Brain dump is a really common spread in bullet journaling, and it's essentially, as the name implies, just dumping your brain out onto the paper. And I find these can be really useful if you just have a lot going on, if you're feeling overwhelmed, or if you're at the start of some sort of project or task and you just really want to get all of your ideas out onto paper. And the last term I have for B is bleeding, which is when any kind of ink or anything that you're using on your paper soaks through the page all the way to the other side of the paper. So it's not just that you can see sort of a shadow of it through the paper, which is a different term we'll get to later, but it's that it actually bleeds through the paper or soaks through the paper and comes out the other side. Moving on to C, we have collections and calendex. So collections are basically the modules of a bullet journal. Writer Carol likes to say that the BuJo is a modular framework and each module is a collection, and they serve to organize related information. So every individual spread can also be seen as a collection. So examples of collections would be the index, the future log, and the monthly log, which we will get to in a minute. As for the calendex, this is a method of organizing tasks and events that are happening more than a month ahead of time that wouldn't go on your monthly log. I personally prefer to use a future log for this purpose, but lots of people in the bullet journaling community prefer the calendex. It's really up to personal preference. Moving on to D, I have a couple entries here. So we have the daily log, the Dutch door, and doodles. So a daily log is what it sounds like. It's a log you use on a daily basis. At the top of the page, you write the date, and then throughout the course of the day, you use rapid logging, which I'll explain later, to write down all your tasks, events, and notes as they occur, as they come to you. And the next day, you'll just pick right back up wherever you finished by writing the next day's date and starting again. A Dutch door allows you to get a little bit more creative in how you set up your spreads. So this usually involves either cutting or folding a page so that you can see through to the next page. If you know me, you know that I'm not the biggest fan of traditional Dutch doors that involve cutting the paper, but I'm the biggest fan and regularly use faux Dutch doors with a folded page to allow me to get more information at a glance in my weekly spreads. Doodles. Doodling is obviously a term that's just generally used, but it's very common in the bullet journaling community and really just refers to any little drawings that you may add into a spread for that little bit of an artistic element. Moving on to E, we have events. So an event is one type of bullet you might use in your bullet journal. Events are traditionally symbolized by an open circle bullet. That's what I use for events, but of course, when you make your own bullet journal, you can decide what types of bullets you want to assign to different things. Moving on to F, we have future log. This is one of my favorite spreads in the bullet journal, and this is what I refer to as an alternative to the Calendex and is my personal preference out of the two. So a future log usually involves setting up at least 6 months in advance. There are lots of different styles you can do, but essentially you will write out the months so that you can see sort of at a glance what days land on what days of the week for future planning, and then there'll be some sort of space for you to fill in events or appointments or birthdays or anything else that are coming up in the future that are happening past the current month you're in. Moving on to G, we have two terms, GSM and ghosting. GSM is an acronym that stands for grams per square meter, and it's basically how you determine the quality or the weight of paper in a notebook. Traditionally, GSM in notebooks used for bullet journaling range from around 90 all the way up to 160. The higher the number, the thicker the paper, and usually, though this is a simplification, the higher quality the paper. If the GSM is higher, you're less likely to have bleeding, which we talked about, and you're also less likely to have ghosting, which is our next term. And ghosting is when you see the shadow of your writing on the other side of the page, so it's not fully bleeding through the page, it's a bit of a shadow through the paper. Moving on to H, we have hand lettering. This is what we call the different types of calligraphy or faux calligraphy that we tend to use in bullet journaling. It really is quite simple. It's basically just lettering that you do by hand. For I have the index. This is very important in bullet journaling to keep yourself organized. Notebooks sometimes come with pre-numbered pages, but if they don't, in bullet journaling, you're going to have to number them. And this is so you can effectively use your index. So your index is something you'd want to set up near the beginning, if not on the very first page of your bullet journal. And this is where you write out all the different collections or spreads in your bullet journal and what page they're on. This way, if you ever have to find anything, you know exactly where to look. For J, I have journal, and of course, journal is what we tend to call notebooks in the bullet journaling community. And for K, we have the key. This is another important one to set up near the beginning of your bullet journal, and this is where you write out all the different types of bullets and signifiers that you're going to use in your bullet journal so that you can use it as reference until you get used to it. For L, I have layout. This is another term that's used pretty much interchangeably with spread or collection. It does tend to more specifically apply to how you're actually organizing your spread or collection. So an example of a collection would be a weekly spread, and a specific layout of weekly spread that I like to use is the rolling weekly. So some people would call that the rolling weekly layout. Some people would call that the rolling weekly spread. Technically it is both, but again, this is pretty interchangeable and people tend to use them to mean pretty much the exact same thing. For M, we have monthly logs and migration. A monthly log is a spread where you will write out the days of the month and have some sort of space to write in any kind of events or day-specific tasks that are coming up in that month. There are as many different types of monthly logs as there are people. The most basic form of monthly log from the original system involves just writing the days of the month vertically down the left side of a page and writing down any events or tasks that have to happen on those days right beside the date. I personally prefer more of a traditional calendar monthly log setup just because for me as a visual learner, it makes a lot more sense. But again, there are so many different options when it comes to monthly logs. They just refer to a place where you can plan out the current month you're in. Now, migration is kind of a big one, and this is something that I find newbies, beginners sometimes struggle with. Migration comes into play when you don't complete a task on the day you plan to. So if I write down do the dishes on today's daily log and I don't get it done, I'm gonna need to migrate it to another day. So instead of crossing out your bullet point for a task like you would if you'd completed it, you're going to put a little right-facing chevron to indicate that you're moving it. And then all you need to do is write the task on the next day or on whatever day you're going to have a chance to actually do that task. It's pretty simple at the end of the day, but I know it does confuse a lot of people. For N, I have notes and nesting. So notes are another type of bullet. Again, in the traditional bullet journaling system, these are indicated by a small dash. Nesting can be a useful tool to help you organize your bullets into something a little bit more cohesive. So say you have a task to do that is a larger task that involves a lot of smaller subtasks. You could write the main task as a regular task bullet, and then below that task and indented just a little bit to the right, you can add all of the subtasks that are involved. This is a great way to visually represent that all of these tasks are part of the same category or the same larger task, and can help you to stay on track and organize different task families into different nests of tasks. For O, I have one line a day, also called line a day. This is a common spread used in a lot of bullet journals, and it's a way to incorporate traditional journaling into a bullet journal. So this spread allows you to write out one line for every day in your bullet journal, and is a way to reflect on what happened or how you felt, and can act as a little summary of your day, and is a way that a lot of people use their bullet journal for more traditional journaling or as a diary in a more contained manner. Moving on to P, we have printables. Printables are super popular in the bullet journaling community. I actually make some myself, which I provide to my patrons. Printables, in the simplest of terms, are just spreads or artwork or anything really that someone has created that they're providing for other people to print and use however they like. For Q, I have quote page. Quote pages are very common in bullet journaling, and they just allow you to get a little bit more creative, to incorporate some sort of inspirational quote that you want to be reminded of into your bullet journal. They usually involve some sort of artistic element, often include hand lettering, and can be a really fun way to keep yourself motivated and to keep your mind focused on whatever it is that you currently feel you need to work on. Moving on to R, we have a couple here. So Ryder Carroll, Rolling Weekly, and Rapid Logging. Ryder Carroll is the creator of the bullet journal system. I will have his bullet journal website linked as the first link in the description box for you to check out. His website does a great job of explaining the system from top to bottom, and Ryder Carroll is a really cool dude who came up with a system that a lot of us really love. Rolling Weekly is my favorite type of weekly spread. It's the one that I have used every single week for years now. I'll link a video where I go into great detail explaining how the system works so that I won't make this video 20 years long. But if you are having trouble finding a weekly spread that works for you, I highly recommend you try out the Rolling Weekly. And on to Rapid Logging, which is really one of the basic tenets of bullet journaling. Ryder Carroll refers to rapid logging as the language bullet journals are written in. Rapid logging is the use of bullets in your bullet journal. So if you set up a daily log and you start writing out all of your bullets, so all of your tasks and all of your notes and all of your events, you are in the process of rapid logging. Moving on to S, we have spread and signifiers. So a spread, like I've explained, is another way to say a collection or a layout. So again, people tend to use these three words pretty interchangeably. A spread usually refers to two pages that are facing each other. So for example, this ABCs of BuJo spread that I'm making is made up of these two pages that are facing each other. A spread can also happen on just one page, and spreads can even extend for more pages. If you think of a spread as a page or multiple pages you're setting up for a specific purpose, like a weekly, if it fits in that one category, if it's all for one purpose, then you can consider that whole thing as a spread. Signifiers are used to add a little bit more information to an individual bullet. So the common signifiers used in the original bullet journal system are a small star to indicate priority and a small exclamation point to indicate inspiration. You can create your own signifiers for a million different things in your life if you want to, or you can stick to the two from the original system. Moving on to T. So we have tasks, threading, trackers, and themes. So tasks are the most basic bullet you can come across. They are traditionally just the small little point bullet, and they indicate anything that has to get done. Threading is used in your bullet journal to stitch your collections together. Sometimes you will finish using a spread before your need for that spread is over. For example, you might have some sort of financial spread that you fill up, but you still need to track your finances, so you need to make another one. It's likely that you will have already used the pages after that first financial spread, so you'll need to set it up somewhere further in your bullet journal. Of course, you will be recording both of these financial spreads in your index, so you will always be able to figure out what page they're on, but sometimes it's nice if you're on that first financial spread to be able to know right from there where to go to find the continuation of the spread, and that's where threading comes into play. So all you have to do is find where the page number is on your first spread, and beside the page number, write the page number of the continuation of the spread. And you'll do the same in reverse so that you know if you ever have to refer to the first spread, you have to go back to page X. It's actually a pretty simple system that just allows you to go a little quicker and not always have to refer back to the index. Trackers are common spreads or collections that are used to track whatever you could possibly want to track in the world. Some of the most common trackers out there are habit trackers, sleep trackers, and mood trackers, and they come in all different shapes and sizes. Themes are used to tie together certain sections of your bullet journal, usually done monthly, so that they all have a similar feel. So for example, my August theme is waves. So every spread is made with a variety of blues and has waves depicted in one way or another. Themes don't have to be so literal, and they don't have to be artistic. Some people like to do color themes where they'll say do green for September and then they'll do brown for October. Themes are as widely varied and unique as the bullet journalists who use them, so take the opportunity to get super creative and create themes that perfectly fit you and your life and your loves. Of course, you don't have to do themes if you don't want to. Lots of people use the basic bullet journal system and don't bother with themes, but for those of us who are a little bit more artistic or creative, it can be a fun outlet, and it can be really cool when you're flipping through your bullet journal to instantly see when you go from one month to the next, because the color scheme and the style and the art changes from one page to the next. I really struggle to find terms for you. If you have any ideas, please let me know in the comments down below. I ended up putting Uniball gel pens because they happen to be my favorite type of gel pen to use in my bullet journal. Specifically, their Signo Broad white gel pen is amazing, but I would love to know if you can think of any other terms that I can put for you. Same thing for V. I could not think of one single bullet journal term that started with V, so let me know if you have any ideas. For W, I have weekly log, washi tape, and waiting on. So a weekly log is a weekly spread of some type or another. As I've already said, my absolute favorite style of weekly log is the rolling weekly. Again, that video is linked so you can learn more about that specific setup. But again, how you use a weekly log is completely up to you. Some people like to use daily logs and some people like to use weekly logs. You generally don't have to use both. If you prefer to go day by day and have more space and have dailies, then do that. If you prefer to set up a whole week at a time so that you can do a little bit more future planning, if you don't need quite so much space for every single day, then you can go with a weekly log. This is the type of thing that's really good to experiment with and try it out. For years, I used daily logs, but I transitioned to weekly logs when I realized that I really needed to be able to plan out a whole week and know what was happening a couple days in advance, just the way my brain works. And since I found the rolling weekly, I have never wanted to go back. Washi tape is a type of tape that's really commonly used and talked about in the bullet journaling community. It's a type of decorative tape that usually has some sort of color or design on it. It's thin and durable and made of natural fibers like hemp and bamboo, and is easy to stick and remove on lots of different types of surfaces without causing damage, which is why it's popular in bullet journaling And lastly, for W, we have waiting on. This is a particular type of spread that I really like, that you can set up to write out any types of things that you are waiting on to get delivered or waiting to have done by someone else. It's just a good place to collect all of these things together so that you can make sure you don't forget about them if they maybe don't happen in the time you expect, and you remember that maybe you should be following up. For X, I couldn't think of anything at all, so again, if you can come up with ideas for X, please let me know in the comments. For Y, I have two. I have U and year at a glance. U was a suggestion by one of my patrons, Haley. Thank you so much for the suggestion. I really love it. So what Haley said was, you put a bit of yourself in every page of your bullet journal, and I couldn't agree more. I love this. This is something I talk about a lot. A bullet journal is meant to be whatever you need it to be, and your bullet journal is going to be 100% unique to you. So I really, really love that Haley suggested this because it's so true. Year at a glance is something that sometimes gets confused with a future log. A year at a glance is more for reference. It's a place where you can see every single day of the year and where it falls, just for your brain if you need to be able to visualize it. Whereas a future log is more to plan out and write in events for those days. And we're on to the very last letter, Z. This is one that I struggled with, but again, Haley, one of my patrons, saves the day. Haley suggested zero spend, which is a common style of tracker that is used to track every day that you don't spend any money. Now for this box on the right side of the spread, you may have noticed it. I set it up to be a place where I could write out just a very basic definition of bullet journaling as a whole. So I took this from different sections of Writer Carol's bullet journal website. Again, that website will be linked in the description box, so go check it out for all that information from the horse's mouth. But this is what I wrote. Bullet journal is a methodology created by Writer Carol. It's a mindfulness practice disguised as a productivity system. It's designed to help you organize your what while you remain aware of your why. The goal of the bullet journal is to help bullet journalists live intentional lives, ones that are productive and meaningful. The system allows you to enjoy the benefits of writing by hand while staying organized. It is a modular framework allowing you to create a system that works for you and your unique life. Head to the bullet journal website to learn more and get going. Once I completed the entire spread, I felt like it was missing something, so I added these line art flowers. As always, all of the supplies I used will be linked in the description box, so check that out if you want to see the exact supplies I used. I will also be posting pictures of this spread on my Instagram, so go follow me there if you want to be able to save it as reference. Another reason to follow me on Instagram is that I am very close to hitting 10,000 followers, and it's actually my birthday on Monday, so my hope is that for a birthday present, I will hit 10,000 followers on Instagram, and when I do, I will be hosting a giveaway for this limited edition Archer and Olive notebook. It's a beautiful green color with the gold embossing on the front and the gold edged pages. It is absolutely gorgeous, and it is a traditional A5 size notebook. So definitely go follow me on Instagram if you're not already and you want to give me a birthday present and you want the chance to win this notebook. Thank you as always to my patrons for their support. I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. Extra special thanks to our newest patron, Kimmy. Check out the link in the card and in the description box if you want to join the squad. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you are having a lovely day, and I will see you very soon in the next one. Bye, friends.